Well, I did one of these talking about the Xbox Series X, so let's talk about the PlayStation 5 now. I will be upfront and say that I am more of a fan of PlayStation than I am of Xbox. I admitted as much in my video talking about why I don't understand the marketing strategy behind the Series X,
And I'm saying this is one of the biggest Sony fanboys out there. I chose the PlayStation 4 for its more robust offering of single-player content and more franchises that I was interested in. I have a personal preference for Sony games and franchises.
and I'm pretty sure that comment alone is why someone decided to give my video a thumbs down without an explanation or comment. I just enjoy games regardless of the company making them. And my main gripe with the Series X isn't with the games that'll be coming to it or any of the technical specs or anything along those lines, but rather what purpose the console will ultimately serve Microsoft. With services like Game Pass and Play Anywhere, I personally don't see the point of buying a new machine just to play those games on my TV rather than my computer. And while I enjoy a few franchises that are Xbox exclusive, I'm much more a fan of Sony's or even Nintendo's offerings. I might miss out on one or two of the games by not getting the Series X, and having this new system could allow those games and even potentially older ones to look better than ever. But the vast majority of them will be available to me for a lower price thanks to Game Pass on PC without the need to buy a potentially $500 box. But enough about my old video. You can watch it if you want, link down in the description below and all that fun jazz. Let's talk about this Gigantamax Duraludon looking motherfucker. On Thursday this past week, in between a staggeringly wide variety of transitions involving the controller's face buttons, Sony finally unveiled the PlayStation 5 along with a showcase of games. I'll touch on those games in a bit, but let's look at the console for a bit first. On the surface, the PlayStation 5 looks to be like a souped up PlayStation 4, as we all kinda expected it to be. A solid-state drive, ray tracing capabilities, 3D audio, and a whole host of other neat and impressive sounding features, many of which are shared by the Series X. But there are two main reasons why I'm not going to talk about specs in this video, or why I did in the last video for that matter. A, I wanted to wait until we knew more about the PlayStation 5 to compare and contrast, only to ultimately remember that I barely understand what tech specs mean anyways. And B, tech specs are not really something I look for when buying a console. To me, a console's capabilities are not what makes a game great, the same way that technology doesn't necessarily make for a great film or a great song. Some of my favorite games to play are some of the least impressive graphically or even technically, and I focus more on fun gameplay over higher quality visuals or how many particle effects there are in a scene. For me, it's about the substance of the console and the games that that console provides at the end of the day. So the two most important questions that I ask myself when buying a new console are A, what systems do my friends have? And B, what games can you play on that system and that system alone? The first question only really applies if you play online games, but it can also extend to single-player experiences as well. If, let's say, I got the PlayStation 5 and all my friends got the Series X, I'd feel a little lonely telling them all about my time playing Ratchet and Clank when they want to talk about Halo Infinite. But as time has gone by, online functionality has become more and more of a feature to games, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon, let alone with this new generation of consoles. So knowing what your friends have can only help you have a better experience in the long run. The second question is the one I usually focus on when discussing new consoles, and that's because these pieces of hardware are largely built with one key thing in mind. It's something that Microsoft learned the hard way with the Xbox One, and why they spent most of this last generation playing catch up to Sony. The Xbox One and the One X are impressive pieces of hardware, probably some of the most impressive to hit the market before this incoming generation. But when there isn't much to play on them that you can only experience with that system, it makes it a bit of a harder sell. What's more, I already talked about how Microsoft kinda shot themselves in the foot with the Play Anywhere initiative. While I do admit it is awesome that they are willing to let just about anyone play their games without the need for dedicated hardware, it's hard to justify buying said dedicated hardware when something I currently own like a PC or laptop will work just as well, if potentially not better. Contrast that with the PlayStation 5 and even the Nintendo Switch. Both systems feature a robust library of exclusive games that you can only play on their system, as well as all the cross-console goodness from third-party developers, giving you a wholly unique library of titles to choose from. You're not able to play Breath of the Wild or God of War on the Xbox, just like you're not able to play Halo on a Switch or a PlayStation console. So to me, choosing between the Series X and the PlayStation 5 ultimately comes down to what games are available for that system. And just based on what we saw in this presentation alone, I'm already pretty much sold on the PlayStation 5. The main focus of Sony's presentation on Thursday was showcasing games that will be available at the start of the PlayStation 5's life, as well as one or two glimpses into the future beyond that. I have a lot to talk about, so I'll just go down the list and talk about some of my favorite games from the reveal. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this will largely be me talking about the games. We'll keep it simple, and I'll do like I did in my favorite games of 2019 video, and talk about them just in alphabetical order. It also means I don't really have to worry about ranking them or talking about everything, and I can instead talk about the ones that I just want to talk about, which is already a lot on its own, so let's stop wasting time and get right in. I absolutely adore Astrobot Rescue Mission, and to a lesser extent the Playroom, so to see what is likely a sequel to one of my favorite PlayStation VR titles had me giddy with excitement. It's unclear if this new game is going to be a VR title as well, and since Sony didn't really talk about VR during this reveal, it's possible it might not be. We already know there will be some form of VR for the PlayStation 5 at least. They confirmed as much in previous interviews, and with the new HD camera accessory they showed off, it could mean better tracking for the PlayStation VR. But restricting the game to the PlayStation VR again could seriously shutter its pickup potential for customers. So I wouldn't fault them for making it a more traditional experience with maybe VR integration for those who want it like me. Either way, if Astros Playroom is the first PlayStation VR title confirmed for PlayStation 5 or doesn't even utilize the headset at all, I'm just already sold on the next adventure for my little buddy Astrobot. One of my absolute favorite indie titles to come out this past generation was Octodad Dadliest Catch. It's the first title I got all the trophies for on the PlayStation 4, and one I fully intend to come back to with a few friends and a few drinks, but during the showcase, we got a look at Young Horse's next title, Bugsnax. It's not really clear how the game will play, and given the previous game these folks worked on, I'm not entirely surprised, but it has a cute aesthetic that combines the charm of the Muppets and classic game titles from Rare, a lot of fantastic food bug designs that I'm sure will delight me to no end, and a tentative holiday 2020 release date, which means I don't even have to wait that long for this one to come out. Deathloop was probably my favorite reveal from E3 2019, other than Keanu Reeves walking out on stage, and while it's not my favorite reveal from this presentation, it's certainly one of the games I'm most looking forward to with this next generation. We got a sneak peek at the gameplay of this one and a bit more of the story, and now I'm just even more excited to play. A Majora's Mask or Prince of Persia style rewind function combined with the chaotic and open-ended powers and gameplay of Dishonored sounds like an absolutely fantastic experience. And with the many possibilities this world and its characters have to explore, I'm ready to cause some mayhem. Given Arcane Studios' history, I expect a lot of polish from them, I expect a lot of fantastic and unique powers, and a world that's just begging to be explored more. If they provide even just a little bit of that, I'm pretty sure Deathloop's going to be one of my favorite games of the upcoming generation. Going into Sony's presentation, I was expecting the usual sort of assortment of game genres that we typically get in a E3 sort of showcase. First-person shooters, RPGs, an assortment of Japanese games, indie games, you know, that sort of thing. What I wasn't expecting was something that looks like it'll be a visual novel experience, but Goodbye Volcano High looks like it'll be just that, and I can honestly say I'm kind of excited for that. The trailer doesn't show much outside of the anthropomorphic dinosaur characters, but the game is a choice-driven narrative about Fang, an 18-year-old more concerned with being a famous musician than what they'll end up doing after graduation. The team at Co-op have openly stated that this will be a very queer game experience, and seeing something like that in one of the biggest gaming streams of the year was pretty cool. I'm excited to see how this narrative gut punches us when it finally releases, and I'm willing to say hello to Goodbye Volcano High hopefully soon. God, that joke is terrible. I'm so sorry. Easily one of the most stunning examples of how far the PlayStation 5 can push the boundaries of visuals in gaming this early on, Horizon Forbidden West was a visual marvel to behold from moment one. The vibrant and imaginative world of Horizon is just begging to be expanded upon, and I'm glad that Guerrilla Games and Sony have embraced this franchise as one of their flagship series. The first game was already a fantastic experience, with maybe a few minor annoyances that kept it from being one of my top 5 favorite games on the system. So here's hoping that this one takes the lessons learned from Zero Dawn and its expansion, and uses them to great advantage. I know I'm excited to play it, and I kinda hope you all are too. I'm not sure why I never thought I would see a Pikmin-like game on a Sony console, but Keena Bridge of Spirits looks to be delivering just that. Ember Labs describes themselves as a boutique studio specializing in character development for animated commercials, and the expertise they hold shows in this animated darling. Along with the aforementioned Pikmin element, it looks like this will be a third-person hack and slash with some magic thrown in to boot, and all of that just kinda has me excited to see what this studio can bring. Plus, these little spirit pudgeball things are just super adorable, and I will defend them all to the end of time, and I will not forgive Ember Labs if there is an emotional scene in this game where they all die. Do not do this to me. This is your one warning. We've already known that this game was coming out as early as 2016, but we finally got to see the reimagining of Abe's Exodus take light with Oddworld's Soulstorm. It's nice to see what was once considered a spin-off title get its own chance in the spotlight, and considering Abe's Odyssey was one of my favorite games for the original PlayStation, it'll be great to revisit a part of one of my favorite games with new advances in gameplay and technology. Now, if we could just get a sequel to my favorite game in the Oddworld series, Stranger's Wrath, then I would be set. But in the meantime, I'm more than happy to revisit this world with Abe and all of the fun characters, and just see how well this game has shaped out over the last 5 or so years of development. Of all the games that Sony showed off during the presentation, this one is probably the one that I am most excited about. Ratchet & Clank is one of my favorite franchises that Sony has produced over the years, and Rift Apart looks like it's going to be another fantastic adventure in this series. The dimension hopping alone could lead to some great jokes, worlds, and combat instances, but throw in the absolutely stunning visuals and the inclusion of this new mysterious Lombax girl, and you have enough for me to be excited for the next installment of this beloved franchise. I do have a bit of a theory about who this is, but I'm going to save that for another video, hopefully coming out very soon. Hopefully the team at Insomniac have been given all of the tools they need to make this one the best game yet, and just based on the brief tease that we got here, I think it's safe to say that they have. Everything from the visual upgrade to the weapon choices to just about everything, honestly, has me excited to delve back into this universe that I love so dearly. And if there's one game that would get me to buy a PlayStation 5 day one, it's this. I've enjoyed LittleBigPlanet for basically the entire life the series has had, experimenting with the creation tools enough to have aspirations to make more, but never really having the time to do so, and instead just enjoying the creative worlds the single-player content provided and all of the wonderful worlds people have made throughout the years. But with Sackboy: A Big Adventure, it almost looks like Sumo Digital could potentially be abandoning the creative suite for a more traditional platforming game. Now, I could just be thinking that because this is a LittleBigPlanet game where the trailer didn't show off any sort of creation suite stuff, but even then, the game looks like a charming and fun to play platformer, reminiscent of Banjo-Kazooie or Super Lucky's Tale or something like that. If it also lets me make my own levels to share with the world, then I'll be more than eager to give this one a look. LittleBigPlanet as a series is just one of those things that I unabashedly adore about PlayStation, and the fact that we're still getting more of it just makes me happy. SpiderMan for PlayStation 4 was my favorite game of 2018, beating out other top contenders God of War and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So to hear that we're getting a spin-off game / mini-sequel / whatever the heck they're calling this game, that could also very possibly be a launch title for the PlayStation 5, I'm already sold. Miles has seen a lot of love in recent years, thanks in large part to the absolutely incredible Into the Spider-Verse, and one of my main problems with Spider-Man PlayStation 4 was his underplayed role. But with him getting his powers at the end of the game, sorry, spoilers, I was hoping that we'd get a chance to at least play him in the sequel, and it looks like we're just going to be getting a whole game with him in the starring role instead. I'm perfectly alright with this just being a spin-off title or a short little game experience or whatever it ends up being, because I'm just excited to get back into this world that Insomniac has so lovingly brought to the gaming sphere, and the fact that we get to play as Miles Morales with all of his unique powers and stuff just is an added bonus in my mind. And if this one ends up actually being a launch title, it'll probably be one of the first games that I play on the system. Annapurna Interactive showed off 2 different games during the presentation. A whimsical, gravity-bending adventure called Solar Ash from the people behind Hyper Light Drifter, and the game I want to focus on here, Stray. We don't have that much information about Stray, but the only information I needed was that humans are gone, humanoid robots have taken their place, and you play as an adorable little kitty with a backpack. The possibilities of a platforming game with a cat have been done before, but with the incredibly somber atmosphere the game is set in, it could lend itself to some fun revelations about life, humanity, and what it means to be an adorable little kitty with a backpack. Even if this ends up just being Death Stranding but with a cat, I'm already on board. I only ask that you keep the Monster Energy product placement to a minimum. And that about covers it. I know I omitted a few games for one reason or another, but I'm pretty much going to be keeping an eye on just about all of these games. Even so, I think I've proven more than a doubt why I'm more excited for the PlayStation 5. While the Xbox Series X does have at least a few games confirmed that I'm interested in, most of them are more likely also going to be coming to Game Pass, so I should be covered with just that. That fact alone could be enough for me to get a PlayStation 5 over the Series X, but Sony showed up with a fantastic assortment of games to look forward to, and I've gone from thinking about saving up for the PlayStation 5 to full-on restructuring my budget to try and get one day one. Regardless of which way you're personally thinking of going with this next generation, I think it's safe to say that we're all in for a hell of a great time for gaming these next few years. There are so many ways people can play games nowadays, and I'm just excited to see what fantastic and creative adventures await us even just a few years down the road. Now, if Sony and Microsoft could maybe stop playing price chicken so I know how much I have to save up, that would be just swell. What games for the PlayStation 5 or Xbox One or even for the Switch or whatever are you personally excited for? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.